Listen closely, for the reality you occupy is not what it seems. It is a marketplace of energy, and until this moment, you have been the product on the shelf. The world is teeming with emotional vampires, chaos agents, and noise designed to fracture your focus, and they are all betting on one thing: that you remain asleep, reactive, and easily drained. Every man who seeks to rise above the mediocrity of the masses must internalize a brutal truth. Detachment is not a passive state of giving up. It is the ultimate form of aggressive power. I am not speaking of the soft, comfortable detachment promised by modern spirituality. I am speaking of the cold, razor-sharp strategic detachment of a mind that refuses to be siphoned by the weak. You have spent too long handing out your vitality like it is cheap currency, drowning in the storms created by others and clinging to relationships that anchor you to the bottom. That ends now. You are here to become a fortress, a man who walks through fire without the smell of smoke on his clothes, a man who studies the art of power as Machiavelli intended. From this second forward, you do not retreat out of fear. You withdraw out of a ruthless calculation for your own preservation. You are turning your energy from a leaked resource into a loaded weapon. If you have the will to claim this power, declare it to yourself and the world right now by commenting, "My energy is mine alone." Number 1. The law of strategic withdrawal. The first evolution requires you to master the law of strategic withdrawal. You must understand that true detachment is not about escaping reality. It is about the rigorous selection of your battles. It is the high-level art of deciding exactly where your power flows, and more importantly, where the valve is shut off permanently. Look around you. The majority of men live as open circuits, bleeding their electricity into every petty argument, every internet distraction, and every chaotic soul that stumbles into their path. They believe that engagement is strength, but they are wrong. Power is never built in the noise of chaos. It is constructed in the silence of control. Machiavelli knew that a leader who cannot govern his own reactions is nothing more than a puppet, dancing on the strings of anyone who knows how to provoke him. You must become the antithesis of this fragility. You must become a ghost to those who seek to drain you, calm, unswayed, and utterly impossible to trigger. When a situation arises that threatens your peace, you do not lower yourself to fight it in the mud. You withdraw with the precision of a king pulling his armies back from a trap, sacrificing a pawn to win the war. Realize this: you owe no one your attention, your explanation, or your presence. Your energy is the ammunition of your life, and you must guard it with the same lethal intensity you would use to guard a vault. You must ruthlessly excise the noise, step back from the emotional parasites feeding on your reactions, and walk away from traps disguised as social obligations. Control is not a gift the world gives you. It is a territory you conquer. Comment: I guard my energy with intention if you are ready to seize this territory. Number 2. The power of the void. Next, you must cultivate the terrifying power of emotional silence. Do not mistake this for the absence of feeling. It is the absolute subjugation of it. It is the ability to stand in the epicenter of a hurricane and offer not a single drop of the reaction that the world is begging for. The weak are addicted to the noise of their own emotions. They require constant validation, conflict, and drama to feel like they exist. But the man of power knows that silence is a blade that cuts deeper than any scream. When you cease explaining yourself, when you stop defending your decisions to people who do not matter, and when you refuse to react to provocations, you become an anomaly. You become a man who cannot be manipulated because there are no levers left to pull. Machiavelli warned us that men are driven by their passions more than their reason, and this makes the masses predictable and easy to herd. They chase dopamine highs and flee from discomfort, collapsing the moment pressure is applied. But you will be different. You will let the void of your silence do the heavy lifting. When someone attempts to trigger you, do not fire back. Simply observe them as a scientist observes a specimen. When they demand your energy, do not rush to supply it. Calculate the cost. By remaining still, you force them to reveal their hand while you keep yours hidden in the dark. The person who speaks the least in any room holds the most authority, for their confusion is your shield and their assumptions are your camouflage. Let them speculate, let them project their insecurities onto you and remain unreadable. This is how you detach, not by killing your emotions, but by refusing to let them be weaponized against you. Their discomfort in your silence is merely the sound of your power expanding. If you are ready to wield this, comment, "My silence is my strength." Number 3, the geometry of dominance. We then move to the art of controlled distance, the invisible geometry of power. This is the boundary you draw between your psyche and the forces that threaten your equilibrium. This is not about being cold, it is about strategic spacing, a deliberate separation that prevents you from drowning in the currents of others. Most people suffocate themselves by standing too close to the fire, staying in draining relationships, toxic environments, and dead-end loyalties, hoping that proximity will somehow fix the brokenness. But power requires space to breathe. Machiavelli understood that a ruler must be close enough to see the board, but distant enough never to be a pawn on it. You must apply this ruthlessly. See everything, comprehend the dynamics at play, but allow nothing to entangle your soul. Controlled distance acts as a filter. It stops you from absorbing emotions that do not belong to you and protects the sanctity of your discipline. Understand that not every invitation is a summons you must answer, and not every person who knocks on your door deserves entry. When you step back, you gain the sniper's vantage point. You see who chases you, who reveals their true colors, and who was only there for what they could take. This distance is psychological warfare against your own weaknesses as well. It reveals the habits and impulses that sabotage you. You can sit in a room with someone and be light years away, hearing their words but feeling no impact. This is the level where you become dangerous. Not because you fight harder, but because you refuse to step onto a battlefield you did not choose. Distance makes you unpredictable, and in a world of predictable men, the unpredictable man is king. Step back, observe, and engage only when the strike is guaranteed to land. Comment, "I choose distance, not distraction, to seal this pact." Number 4, the economics of energy. You must now learn the calculation of energy value. A powerful man rises the instant he realizes that energy is not infinite. It is a finite, decaying currency that must be hoarded like gold in a famine. To detach from the drain of the world, you must become an economist of your own soul. Your attention is precious, limited, and never to be spent without a calculated return on investment. Look at the people around you, wandering through life leaking their vitality into meaningless arguments, doom-scrolling, and entertaining emotional parasites. They are bankrupt because they do not know the cost of their own power. Machiavelli warned that a leader who squanders his resources destroys his kingdom from within long before the barbarians reach the gates. You weaken yourself every time you invest in a person or activity that does not yield growth, clarity, or profit. You must subject every interaction to a cold audit. What is the return on this energy? If the return is stress, confusion, or stagnation, the cost is too high, and immediate liquidation of that asset is required. You are not a rehabilitation center for broken people, nor are you obligated to be the emotional crutch for those who refuse to walk. Your flow must be directed toward ambition, mastery, and expansion, never toward maintenance of the dysfunctional. Guilt is the weapon they will use to bring you back to the poverty of energy. But you will be immune because you know that guilt is merely a manipulation tactic of the insecure. When you stop entertaining distractions, you eliminate them. When you stop giving access based on history and start giving it based on merit, your power compounds. This is a lifestyle of precision. You are not here to be drained by the unworthy. You are here to build a fortress of intensity. Comment: my energy is earned, never taken, if you understand the value of your currency. Number 5. The evolution into autarky. The journey continues into psychological self-sufficiency. True detachment begins when you sever the umbilical cord that feeds you validation from the outside world and start generating your own power source from within. A man dependent on external praise, reassurance, or emotional stability is a man who is permanently exposed, a city with no walls waiting to be sacked. Psychological self-sufficiency is the violent act of cutting the strings that tie your self-worth to the reactions of others. This is not a comfortable evolution. It demands that you walk into the basement of your own mind and confront the insecurities you have masked with noise and the fears you have buried under performance. But this confrontation is the only path to sovereignty. You must realize that needing others to keep you balanced is a silent form of slavery. Liberation is found only when you learn to self-soothe, self-motivate, and self-validate. The masses fear this solitude. They are terrified of being alone with their own thoughts because they fear taking responsibility for their own wounds. But you are evolving into a weapon. You must build routines that act as the scaffolding of your sanity, silence that breeds clarity, solitude that cements identity, and discipline that creates structure. Stop relying on others to fix you, for anyone with the power to heal you also holds the power to destroy you, and no sovereign man grants that leverage. Be the anchor in your own storm. Detach from the need to be understood, for understanding from the wrong people is an insult. Detach from the need to be liked, for likability is the currency of cowards who fear standing alone. When you reach this state, you do not grow cold, you grow clear. You stop over-explaining because you no longer crave approval. You stop chasing because you no longer fear loss. People will feel this shift and be threatened by it, trying to guilt you back into submission. But they will fail because your center of gravity is now internal. You rise not because the world helps you, but because you no longer need the world to rise. Number 6. The internal citadel. Now we construct the fortress of unbreakable inner authority. In this stage, you are building a psychological citadel, brick by brick, mortared with discipline and self-knowledge. A man who cannot be shaken internally is immune to any earthquake the world can produce. This fortress is not born of arrogance. It is born of the awareness that most human beings are emotional open wounds looking for a bandage. You are exiting that dynamic. You are stripping your psyche of the illusion that you need others to complete you. This fortress is built in the moments you choose discipline over impulse, when you choose silence over leakage and purpose over pleasure. It is built when you cease casting your pearls before swine, stopping the exhaustive effort of explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Every boundary you enforce is a wall. Every refusal to be drained is a watchtower. Within these walls, you develop internal authority, the ability to command your own thoughts with the absolute obedience of a loyal army. A man with this authority is unpredictable because he cannot be triggered by the usual baits. He acts from vision, not reaction. When they try to pull you into their storms, you remain unmoved, for a storm cannot hurt a stone. When they try to guilt you, it bounces off, for you know you owe nothing to those who drain you. You move slower, more deliberately, like a man who knows that rushing is for the servant, not the master. You navigate the world with a calm so sharp it cuts the tension in the room, unsettling those who rely on chaos to feel important. You belong to yourself. You set the terms of engagement. You are the king distributing resources in wartime, and when others realize your walls are unbreachable, they will either elevate to meet you at the gate or fall away into the abyss. Powerful men become the pressure. They do not collapse under it. Comment: I rule my inner kingdom to lay the first brick. Number 7. The art of filtration. Maintaining this kingdom requires a new philosophy: emotional filtration. Even a microscopic crack in your walls can be an entry point for poison. Therefore, everything that enters your mind must be vetted. Does this serve my ascent, or does it serve my decay? You must master the art of observing without absorbing, witnessing the dysfunction of others without allowing it to cling to your skin. Most people are sponges, soaking up the negativity of their environment until they reek of it. You must be a sealed vessel. The higher you climb, the more the world will test your defenses, for nothing threatens the complacent more than a man who has outgrown their comfort zone. Criticism, jealousy, and sabotage are not signs of failure. They are confirmations that your fortress is visible and imposing. Treat these attacks as data, not insults. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must appear unshakable to prevent rebellion. But you will go further. You will be unshakable. This is the ultimate freedom. When no one holds the key to your emotions, no one holds dominion over your life. The world bends the knee to the man who belongs to himself. Walk with the presence of a man who creates his own direction, and nothing external will ever diminish your trajectory again. Number 8. The shadow of calculated detachment. To truly dominate, you must embrace the shadow of calculated detachment. This is the part of you that sees the world without the rosy filter of idealism, the part that reads intentions, judges actions, and ignores words. It is a cold clarity that others mistake for indifference, but you know it is mastery. You must abandon the childish fantasy that everyone deserves access to you. They do not. Most people approach you with a hidden agenda, a hunger to take, or a fear to project. If you remain plugged into their expectations, you will be a husk long before you reach your potential. As Machiavelli advised, see people as they are, not as you wish them to be. Detachment allows you to look at a person and see the mechanism, not the mask. It allows you to stop trying to fix people who do not want to be fixed, and stop internalizing criticism from those who have built nothing. This detachment makes you accurate. It functions as a truth serum. When you pull back, people reveal whether they respected you or just your utility. You become a mirror reflecting their true nature. Remember, most people do not love you. They love the version of you that serves them. When you disrupt that service, they will revolt. Let them. Your job is not to shrink so they feel big. Your job is to rise so you feel sovereign. Do not apologize for your evolution. Connections must be earned. Choose silence where you once chose conflict, and observation where you once chose reaction. This creates scarcity, and scarcity creates value. When you are no longer easily accessible, you are respected. When you cannot be guilt-tripped, you are feared. Embrace this shadow. It is the instinct that tells you when to cut the cord. Comment: I detach to rise, to accept this shadow. Number 9. The discipline of the laser. We arrive at the discipline of impenetrable focus. Focus is the war for your mind, and most men have already lost. To rise, your attention must become a weapon, sharper than any distraction the world can throw at you. This requires a level of self-respect that the masses lack, the ability to say no without a shred of guilt. When you operate with impenetrable focus, you cease scattering your power across 1,000 meaningless directions. You channel it into a single piercing trajectory. Focus is not just paying attention, it is the ruthless refusal to give attention to anything that weakens you. The modern world is engineered to fracture you, to keep you looking at everything except your own path. You must train your mind to be a fortress where the gates are locked against the thieves of time. This focus protects you from manipulation because you do not bite the hook. It protects you from weakness because undivided attention strengthens identity. You become harder to reach, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. You give less to the world and more to the mission. You stop participating in drama, for drama is the pastime of the unfocused. You stop chasing validation, for validation is the drug of the aimless. Your presence becomes quieter, heavier, and more dangerous. People sense that your mind is not a public park for their garbage. It is a restricted area. Focus reveals the truth. It exposes who was never aligned with your mission and what habits were keeping you mediocre. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. You become untouchable because the world can no longer distract you from your fate. The man who commands his focus commands his destiny. Comment: my focus is my weapon. Number 10. The Code of Detached Dominance. This culminates in the Code of Detached Dominance. This is the state where you stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. You no longer grant emotional access to those who have not earned it. You move with a steadiness that defies chaos, opinion, and rejection. A man who controls his emotions controls the outcome, and a man who controls the outcome is a threat to every manipulator in existence. This is not numbness, it is the precision of a surgeon. You observe motives with cold clarity, trusting patterns over words. You become immune to the hooks people throw to drag you into their misery. You do not argue, for argument is the playground of the undisciplined. You do not allow the instability of others to become your contagion. This requires the discipline to remain centered when provoked and silent when challenged. You understand that emotional reaction is a loss of leverage. Extend the gap between stimulus and response until you are the one holding the cards. Your silence is a strategy. Your stillness is a threat. In this calm, people expose themselves. They panic when their control tactics fail. Let them unravel. You are not above them. You are simply refusing to be below your own standards. You feel deeply, but those feelings do not drive the car. You are a strategist. You enter rooms with awareness, listen to understand, and speak only to increase influence. You see the invisible power dynamics, who is projecting, who is competing, who is hiding weakness, and you navigate them like a grandmaster. Nothing is forced. Your authority is felt, not heard. You fear no loss, no rejection, and no solitude, for you act from a throne of clarity. You are the man who cannot be derailed. Comment: my control is my power. Number 11. The ascent to self-mastery. Finally, we reach the apex, untouchable self-mastery. This is where you transition from protecting your energy to ruling it. You are no longer a passenger in your own life. You are the architect, the strategist, and the king. You do not wait for motivation, you manufacture it. You do not beg for respect, you command it by your very existence. Mastery is not perfection, it is total control. You will still feel fear, anger, and temptation, but they will never again sit in the driver's seat. You observe them like a ruler, listening to his advisors, hearing them, but obeying only your own judgment. Most men are slaves to their programming. You are rewriting the code. Your life becomes a system. Mornings are rituals for war, days are structured for conquest, and nights are audits of performance. You study yourself with ruthless honesty, identifying where you fold and where you hesitate, and you eliminate those weaknesses without mercy. You treat your flaws as targets on a battlefield map. This makes you dangerous because you are willing to do what others will not. Confront yourself. When your mind negotiates for comfort, you cut it off. When old habits try to drag you back, you view regression as treason. Every act of discipline makes your authority heavier. Every time you endure pressure, your capacity for power expands. You become truly untouchable when no betrayal, loss, or disappointment can shake your foundation because your foundation is built on who you are, not what you possess. This is not isolation. It is insulation from dependence. You can love and connect, but you will never collapse if they leave. Your center is yours. The highest power is not making others fear you, but becoming a man who fears losing nothing because he is aligned with his purpose. Everything external is temporary: status, money, people. But your character is permanent. Choose it every day. Think instead of react. Build instead of escape. Never surrender your mind. You are not just detaching, you are ascending. You do not chase power, you become it. If you are ready to be the man who cannot be broken, remember this: no one is coming to save you. You must save yourself. Start now.